Well, hello, that's me again. Today is July 28th, 2025. It's Monday, I guess. And what you see in the beginning is what is happening right now inside Pokrovsk with Russian diversionary recon groups, basically advancing, and the fighting is within the city, and they are beginning to move whatever they can, the armed forces of Ukraine. And that brings us to this whole thing today, which essentially I didn't want to do the video today, honestly. But obviously, as you might understand, it is obvious. The first thing I do in the morning after I get my 20-ounce latte is to read headlines and read news, because you have to keep abreast with what is happening in the world. And good Lord, do I open today this headline and it says, look at this. So Mr. Trump, who, as we know, always says always tells the truth, and he's just the guy who controls the universe. He says that, Trump reduces Russia-Ukraine deadline to 10-12 days. The US president previously said he would impose new sanctions against Moscow if no deal was reached before early September. So here's his quote from him. I'm going to set a new deadline about 10 or 12 days from today. Okay, why not 9 or 13, whatever. There is no reason to wait. I wanted to be generous, but we are just not seeing any progress, Trump told reporters on Monday in Scotland. He was sitting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So, and yeah, he repeats the same tropes about how he's disappointed with Putin, whom allegedly he knows better than anybody else. Well, of course, he has no clue who Mr. Putin is. But the issue here is that some people still believe that, Russians need to, finish the deal, earlier than those 50 days, now 10, 12 days. I have news, which you have to read my lips. Russians don't care. They know who Trump is. They know what United States are. They know what combined West is trying to do. So there is no any delusion on that matter. And fact is, Russians don't care whatever the tariffs Mr. Trump will impose on Russian oil or Russian gas, but it's actually between him and China and India and others. So, China and the United States continue those trade, negotiations. I believe they are now in Switzerland. European Union people have been in China recently. But there is another thing which is great, and I think that the air of success, quote unquote, with the so-called trade deal with European Union by Trump got him a little bit into his head. Well, a lot of things got into his head, and we'll be talking about it. That is why I had to go out and make a video. But let's take a look essentially on what we are talking about. And we are talking about, obviously, this trade deal with $600 billion, apart from maintaining flat 15% tariffs, of $600 of being invested into the United States. And as always with Trump, as you can see yourself, immediately after this so-called negotiations, and this, she's an imbecile, actually. I mean, most of them are. She says that, European Union admits it can guarantee 600 billion promised to Trump. Well, yeah. The European Union has admitted it doesn't have the power to deliver on promise to invest 600 billion in the United States economy, only hours after making the pledge at landmark trade talks in Scotland. Okay, I mean, then what is the worst of those trade negotiations and trade talks and agreements? Well, it's pretty much, they're worthless. But here's the explanation, actually, how Europeans, who are absolutely, Europe is done. I am on record for many years, but so here is what actually have been discussed, or rather pretended to be discussed by European Union. It is not something that EU as a public authority can guarantee, those 600 billion. It is something which is based on the intentions of the private companies. Okay? Said one of the senior commission officials. And so, as you can see yourself, it is all about, comes down to the private enterprises and whatever they want to do with the United States. Granted that they will be now, well, charged additional 15%, whatever they do. So what is this all about? Well, Mr. Lavrov today, who was speaking actually quite a lot today, he says that, well, in the end, what it comes down to is that a U.S. trade deal with will fuel EU's deindustrialization. So he talks about what I've been warning for the last 10 years, that any kind of the trade relations between United States and European Union will end up with Europe being destroyed. And it is being destroyed as we speak, not only industrially, in moral sense, and that will be the key point of my talk to you today. So, but what Lavrov says that, yeah, it is the industrialization, and speaking at the Territory of Meanings Forum on Monday, Lavrov described the arrangement as clearly leading to further deindustrialization of Europe and capital flight. He added that rising energy prices and the investment outflows will strike a very hard blow to European industrial and agricultural sectors. Correct. Europe is destined to be the second world at best economically, probably in some parts already third world. This is the reality which Europeans have to face. And again, when you look at actually not only the elites, you look at the general, attitude towards what they have in Europe. The only thing Europeans really care about is their welfare. Period. So as long as they are being fed, like those cattle in the whatever, slaughterhouse, they will be okay. They will be pacified. Those few people in Europe who raise the questions about the validity of this whole thing and that European civilization is being basically annihilated, well, they are minority. Yeah, they're minority in Europe. Obviously, they do exist, and while minority, it's still kind of significant minority, make no mistake. But whatever minority is majority, Chingiz Aytmatov wrote wonderful novel about it, and those people are called Mankurds. No memory, no nothing, just working stomachs, so, and then we talk about this whole situation with, if you go and listen to Mr. Alistair Crook, a judge Napolitano, I strongly suggest you to listen to this man. He is intelligent, he is, pure class, pure British class, something which we forgot of seeing from United Kingdom. And he's talking about, is the Trump mystique broken? And he's talking about also the slow change of the mood in Israel about the committing essentially Holocaust. They are genociding Palestinians. And so you can see the frustration and anger in him. And he talks about that even in Israel there is beginning to be some kind of shift, and even CNN actually reporting on this. They confirm Mr. Alistair Crook observations that CNN reports today that a pair of leading Israeli human rights groups has accused Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, becoming the first such organization to make the claim. And it's Bit Tetzalem said in major report released on Monday that it came to that unequivocal conclusion after examination of Israel's policy in the Gaza Strip and its horrific outcomes, together with statements by senior Israeli politicians and military commanders about the goals of the attack. A second Israeli group, Physicians for Human Rights Israel, announced it was joining B'Tselem in calling Israel actions in Gaza genocide. They are committing genocide. They're building the concentration camps, and as Alistair Crook says, and I can only subscribe to his words, what's next? Well, ask Jews, they know, gas chambers and annihilation. This is what is happening. They are starving children. Today alone, 140, I believe, is the number when the children, primarily, obviously, most vulnerable category of people, they died from hunger. And what they do, what this wonderful, quote-unquote, Israeli Defense Force, which is not defense force, which is a genocidal militia, and what do? They get those Palestinians to the distribution points of the humanitarian aid, and they shoot them. So there you go. What do you need more about this? So Israeli society sentenced itself. And while the shift is happening right now, it's too little, too late. The Holocaust and victim card has been expired and has to be thrown away. Israel commits Holocaust, and this is what is happening there, and we have to keep this in mind. But continuing with Mr. Alistair Crook's statements, I also need to make a statement. Why is this all about? What is this all about on part of Mr. Trump? And don't suddenly 50 days to 10 to 12 days. Again, he should have come up with the 6. Why not? It's very simple. And anybody who has any brain left and any IQ slightly above room temperature can understand. This is about diversion. He needs ultimately diversion which can actually essentially remove the focus from Epstein files and the fact that Mr. Trump is in there. And then of course this topic is not going anywhere. It stays, and this is to the highest credit actually of American people who, unlike Europeans, who look at French, they basically, they have been into the pedophile business and, applauding those French philosophers and intellectuals such as Sartre, such as Derrida, such as Foucault. And it wasn't just the ivory tower type thing. It was a widely spread there since 1968. And yeah, look at French. Well, look where they are now. At least in the United States, the public and especially MAGA crowd basically raise the voice to such a pitch, so to speak, that it's not going away. And Trump needs diversion, distraction, whatever he can do just to remove the focus from the Epstein files, of which he is part of. It doesn't mean that he slapped or raped those poor girls, underage girls. But he is certainly there. There's a decade plus of the friendly relations with this creep, Epstein. But that tells you everything what you need about Trump, even if he is not there directly involved in raping the girls, unlike it is the case with many others. So, and this is the situation. His mystique, broken. Well, there never was mystique after he appointed in 2017. I believe, or 18. It doesn't matter. Mr. Bolton, his national security advisor, you knew everything you needed to know about Mr. Trump. But that's what is happening to him. He needs to actually somehow escape into alternative universe where he is great. He controls the universe. He makes, deals with the aliens from the planet Zoltar, again, engage, this alien technology, and, America is great again, and things of this nature. But of course reality is, and it is inescapable, and everybody now keeps an eye on that. And that is why I put yesterday there in my blog the post about Anna Kasparian and Tucker Carlson talking to each other. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. First, the definition of the left in the United States has nothing to do with left. It's the same neoliberal perverts who, like Democratic National Committee, and people who indeed committed a treason against Constitution. But the point is that actually you better so-called American liberals and American conservatives, they're beginning to cross the lines because you know what? Even if you are liberal, normal liberal, the person with the left-leaning views, and more or less relaxed attitudes to life, if you support pedophiles, I'm sorry, you deserve to spend the rest of your life behind bars. And pedophiles are not treated very nicely in all kinds of let's put it this way, institutions. So, and as a result, Mr. Trump needs any kind of diversion, any kind of distraction, any kind of movement which can shift the focus away from what is ongoing around the Epstein files. And so, 10 to 12 days for Russia, which Russians don't care. Then, of course, the great deal, which is not really a deal. So as it turned out that, all those private intentions, so to speak, from Europe, they've been doing that for a while now. As I already stated, the United States needs to eat too, and in this case, Americans don't care, which is rightly so. Why should they care about Europeans? So, and this is what is this coming down to, and Europe is done. I have been on record for a while now, and The only thing they can do is obviously bark. If you take a look, for example, at Mr. Macron, it's laughable. Yeah, as I already stated, remove pathetic nuclear deterrent of France, what's left. With the exception of Airbus and maybe a couple of their cruise ships, this is nothing. So Emmanuel Macron talks about, yesterday, I spoke this moment to the President Zelensky. I reiterated France's support. We will continue to step up aid to Ukraine and increase pressure on Russia. The question is, of course, what can he possibly provide as the aid to Ukraine? Again, there's a lot of this, white noise, if you wish, or informational noise. And Mr. Macron obviously can produce, as France, nothing of substance. So, they're mirages, they're, this junk which now beginning to fall from the skies, for some reason. And of course, other than that, and other than already completely discredited, like Caesar and things of this nature, French military equipment, why don't he send his Leclercs and see what happens? Of course he will not, because the first one goes in flames, and guess what, Russia's going to be parading this about this like, they're French junk, that's what it is. So, and but they talk a lot, and you see Trump now gives this new deadline. Then you have Macron, pressure on Russia. Russians do not care. And here's what interesting we will come down to today with a speech of Sergei Lavrov, which is in itself extremely important. And it is, again, it's the policy setting speech in many respects. And he was talking on this forum, the youth forum, and what he says is, he is absolutely correct. So what he says that Russia fights West all by itself, plus dialogue with reasonable voices. Lavrov weighs in. The top Russian diplomat said that he sees Nazism making a comeback in the West. Absolutely. It's just this Nazism has a different face, different title, different, appearances, but in its nature, it's the same thing. And so he talks in Solnechegorsk that Russia is fighting against the entire collective West alone for the first time in history, against an adversary that is dead set on destroying the country. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, addressing the terror science, I already told you the territory of the meeting, National Education Youth Forum. So, and then Mr. Lavrov, the distilled rich speech, so to speak, it's he says that on the West's desire to crush Russia. The West demands Russia immediately cease fire and leave things where they are in order to give a respite to Ukraine, allowing it to be rearmed. I think with each passing day we can see that Europeans really want to inflict a defeat on us. Well, we know it goes without saying Europe is the existential enemy of Russia and Russian people. Average European is actually, he looks at Russian as the, Asian subhumans, average. I'm not saying that all, but average does. And this is has been happening with the combined West as represented by Europe for many, many centuries. So, Western elites don't hide their readiness to kill Russian soldiers, which European elites are almost taking for granted. Not only, I have to disagree with Mr. Lavrov on this one, they don't care actually if they kill Russian civilians too. The more Russians they kill, the better. The more women, children especially. For Russians have to disappear from the face of the earth, to be broken up in those small, fiefdoms, split between these deserving and great Westerners and exploited. That's it. This is what combined West is. It's a genocidal, basically, structure now, which committed horrendous crimes against humanity. And so, Mr. Lavrov correctly states this. So, I would add more gravity, so to speak, to his statement, because it's not only about soldiers, it's about civilians. So, they would love to see, nothing more than to see more Russian civilians killed. So, on demand for resolving, on revival of Nazism, he talks about that, it is what it is. Ukraine is the regime in Kiev are essentially Nazi regime, and Europeans gladly support it. They are brainwashed, but it's their problem. So if Europeans do not know what internet is and do not want to conduct their own research, It's their problem, but as I already stated, mankurds, people who live only to eat, excrete, and maybe, you know what, have some sex, which is also perverted. But, you know what. So, on demands for resolving Ukraine conflict, Lavrov is very clear. Russia's conditions for resolving the conflict with Ukraine include an end to attempts to drag Kyiv into NATO and expand the alliance, as well as the need to recognize the realities on the ground. And this is what, you know, what is called the root causes. And, well, reality on the ground, as you saw yourself, and you can take a look at what is happening all over the, so to speak, the ground in what used to be Ukraine, you can see yourself that, well, the slaughter basically continues. And if you take a look at the losses for today, we have what? Oh, yeah, a little bit up, 1,340 so done, and you saw yourself what is already happening in Pokrovsk and other places, and yeah, we're getting to this, you know what, psychological kind of, you know, benchmark, if you wish, or, you know, level of 1.3 million, which is very conservative Russian estimates. And so if you look attentively at what is happening in Donetsk, we can see ourselves that we go to our good friend Marat Khairulin. It's all in red arrows, as you can see yourself. This is from 2 days ago, and since then already a lot of things are changing. So all red arrows, all non-stop attacks across the whole, along the whole front line. So, and Russians have operations in Kharkov and Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So, and yeah, nothing good is coming there. And if that hasn't been enough, Russians completed their what is called the operational exercises July Storm, which were the operational exercises of Russian Navy, which were happening, well, on the eve of the, which was not very good, I'm pretty sure, on the eve of the Russian Navy Day, and there was a lot of ships and all kinds of the units and taking part in the this kind of exercise, from coastal defense to air defense to submarines to anti-submarine warfare ships, and anti-submarine warfare patrol aviation. So a lot of things which were happening there, and they were just making sure that they, you know how to hunt the submarines, how to shoot and launch their missiles, hit the targets. Well, you know, same old, evidently with a good success. But what can I say also, if people, for example, will say that, you know, Lavrov was not necessarily that correct, that, oh, Russia fights alone. Well, and how about North Koreans? No, I mean, North Korean army, you know, yeah, they fought around Suja. So, and probably Russians will be actually requesting the number of the North Korean sappers, which will help clearing the Kursk region and other places where the, well, where Russia is advancing. So, but realistically, yes, if you take a look, Russia is dealing with the whole thing completely on her own. But as I already stated, Russians can take it, they can handle it, and it has been stated so many times over so many years. So that when people begin, for example, George Galloway, oh my God, you know, they have this, Bloomberg reports it, but we know that, we know this not only from Bloomberg. Oh my God, US likely move nuclear arms to UK for the first time since 2008. This is Bloomberg reporting, and in this particular case, we can trust Bloomberg because the problem is, this is what many people have to understand. And I repeat it over and over again. Yeah, they moved most likely those B-61 free-falling nuclear bombs, which could be stuck underneath of F-35, for example, with practically zero probability of success of getting through Russian air defense to bomb anything value. So, but yeah, this is the level of the military thinking and understanding, quote unquote, of the modern warfare, that people begin to worry that, oh my God, they moved nuclear weapons. Yes, they moved nuclear weapons because this is the only thing which they can do. It's primarily PR and those grandiose gestures to show that, look at us, we are very, powerful. No, they're not. And if going back to Mr. Lavrov, and what he was saying, and going back to, well, reality on the ground today, West has no resources, including the United States. They have no resources. Anybody who thinks that, let's imagine, for some reason, that Russians sit idly looking, observing how United States Navy and preposition force moves United States Army to Europe. It won't matter still, because even combined NATO forces as they exist today and probably will not exist in the future are incapable of fighting conventional war, let's say in Eastern Europe, against Russia. They will be defeated, they will be annihilated. They will run out of the long-range fires and high-precision weapons within 2 weeks. Russians produce them non-stop and actually ramping up the production. So, but what can I say? Mr. Trump believes that he somehow controls the universe, and that is why he makes those idiotic statements and idiotic deadlines, which, of course, as I already stated, Russians will simply shrug off. So, but since we already touched upon the Russian Navy Day and Russian Navy, we also have to keep in mind that Russians continue to develop also the support forces, and you can see yourself, this is fresh. There are 2 new tankers. They're really nice ships, actually. They're not just tankers, they can carry a lot of things there, not just and I like if you look at this photo, there is some guy floating there, swimming, and I don't know, maybe with the lady or whatever the hell it is, so it's funny. But the truth is, these are another 2 out of new 5 ships of this supply ships, support ships for Russian Navy. These are pretty impressive ships, and so Russians continue to expand their navy, and as what can I say? I mean, by 2030, it will be the best navy in the world in terms of the platforms and in terms of the strike weapons. It's already the best in the world, and by far. And so, what can I say? Russians say, okay, just, come and see what happens, So, and this is what I wanted to tell you today, obviously, because of this stupid headline. And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. I want again to express my profound gratitude. And believe me, I know many of you. If I do not respond to your messages, guys, keep in mind, I sometimes don't have time. I know who you are, guys, many of you, and I cannot express enough my gratitude for you supporting me. Believe me, I know. So, but this is what I wanted to tell you guys, and what can I say? Have a nice week ahead of you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.